So I have this old boat that I picked up. The thing that's going on with this boat is last time I took it out, and the reason I'm pushing on this right now is, I don't know if you can see, we had some snow up in the mountains last night, and it's going to be snowing here tonight most likely. And so it's getting to that point where I finally got to winterize this. Well, last time I took the boat out, it was running a little hot, and so I'm thinking, okay, we're not getting the water flow. The place that we take it has kind of a lot of silt, a lot of grit in it, which is just death to the impeller in these. And so I decided to pull this apart and replace the impeller. And I actually did start it up, put the muffs on, and sure enough, we're not getting good water flow up in, so it does need the impeller replaced. And in order to, the way I'm going to winterize this, in order to do it properly, I need the impeller to be functioning properly. So I'm going to go ahead and replace the impeller. Now this is the Alpha 1 Gen 1 stern drive. These things are very reliable. As I said, this boat runs really well. And so I'm going to go ahead and we'll get started on that. Now, the way you do it, I've got all the tools and everything lined up here, and it's getting cold, so I've got the heater trying to heat this foot up to help with the flow of the that 90 weight lube that's in there coming out. And so there are 6 bolts. One of them is hidden up under this, and to get that out, normally right here, there's going to be a plug, a cap that goes on there to remove. This doesn't have it. And so, but there is a bolt down in there, and it's a hex. And the, let me see, the size on this hex to get that out is a 3/8. And so we go ahead and remove that. And once we remove that, up underneath, if you can see it here, is the actual bolt that mounts this whole assembly up onto the stern drive. Then there are 2 here that are either 5/8 or 16 millimeter. Either will work fine. 5/8 and 16 millimeters are about exactly the same size, so on this you can use either. Then, if you can see here, right here, there's a nut there and a matching nut on the other side. Those we're going to take off last. Those have to come out with an end wrench. There's no way to get anything else in there. And so we'll take the others out. And so that's number 4 and 5 that need to come out. And then, if you can see down under here, if I can get the camera there, right down in here, that we can get a socket on to take that one out, and then we'll drop this. Oh, I should mention, you do want this elevated enough so that when you get those out, you can pull that foot off and have the room to do it. Plus, it does need to be in gear, so I've got it in forward, and you can see that that's in gear. All right, so like I said, first things first, I'm going to break this loose. If we can get that out of there. Came out without too much trouble. And pull that off. Set it up out of the way. So I'm now going to come up underneath. Okay, let's see. Before I go any farther here, I want to get a drain pen under here and get this gear lube draining out. There's a drain slash fill screw down up under here. Is this screw, and then up at the top is the vent. There's the vent plug up there, and that's also going to determine the fill level when we go to refill this. Okay, I'm going to remove these 2 under here. And like I said, this, I believe the socket I have on here is a 16 millimeter, which is very, very, very close to the 5/8. So Okay, here we go. Now we're going to remove this one up in the back here. So we get up under here, we can get the socket on that. Might help if you had a little longer socket, but this is just enough to get it on there. But yeah, the wind's starting to blow. We get a second out of this one night. I get this thing up today. And hopefully it's okay. I'll go easily. Yeah, I'm going to do that one part way and then come over and do this one about an equal amount and start dropping this down. Okay. All right, it is separated and it's starting to come down. So I'll keep these. All right, I'll remove this one completely and then take the other completely while I hold it. It shouldn't come off without me having to kind of force it a little bit, but just to be sure. Well, looks like I got to come down a little farther to get that nut off. All right, and actually I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a break for a bit. Let as much of this lube drain out as possible before I take it any farther. There's the nut from that side. It's pretty well drained now. Not much is coming out anymore. So I'm going to put these plugs back in. And the new kit should come with new O-rings, new seals for these, so I want to make sure we replace those. So I'm not going to do these in very tight. I just want to make sure I don't lose them mainly and that I'm not dripping all over with this. All right, it's time to move this out of the way and let's drop this off. Let's go over here, over here. We'll see if we have enough room. Drop it down. We'll get in there, raise a little more. All right, there we have it. Okay, there it is. Okay. So what I've done, I brought this in here, I set it up in my vise, which is just 2 picnic benches. Yeah, put together, slid together with some cardboard on top. And I've taken some acetone and I've cleaned the shaft up to make this easier to get this housing off. Now there was an O-ring on here that's going to be replaced around there. I'm going to set that aside just in case if I had to, because I got to get this thing winterized. And in order for it to be winterized, it's got to be running. I got to get it running, and I'll show you why. If I had to, I could put that back on in a pinch, but I don't anticipate that I will. All right, and then we've got this seal here. It needs to come off. Let's get the water tube out of the way. This we're going to reinstall. And there's a lot of silt in all of this, so we'll clean it all up. The new kit, I believe, will come with the new plastic tube here, and it'll have the new housing and the new seal inside of here also. So I'm not going to worry about those right now. I'm going to set this aside for now. We'll clean that up and reinstall it in the upper end. And then this will go in and just slide up into that later on. So we'll set that aside. Okay. And let's see if that seal's going to come out. You know what I'm going to do? This split a little. This is some Mercury lube. I'm just going to lube this all up a little bit just to make things slide up a little bit better. There we go. Okay. All right. Same with this seal. We're going to replace this, but I'm going to set it aside just in case. All right. So we have 1/2 inch back here on this nut, 7/16 here, and then 5/16 here. And we'll remove these first. And there are washers on each of these 3. So I'm going to be careful that we don't drop those down in somewhere. And then this one is just a bolt or a screw that goes down in. It's a really coarse thread. And no washer on that. Now let's work this up. Okay, let's take a couple of screwdrivers and kind of work this on either side. And with all the silt that's down in here, this kit is supposed to come with, here we go, that's coming up. This kit is supposed to come with not just the upper housing, but the lower part of this pump also, and all of the seals. So we'll just pull this off and take a look. I'm sure there's a lot of grit in there. I'm just seeing it everywhere out here. And we want to be careful because there is a key. It's going to be down here on this shaft that drives that impeller. Let's be careful not to lose that. And not to lose this. Okay, that'll make it easier to come up too. There we go. Yeah, that's just all gritty. That impeller even isn't, it's wanting to stick down on there. This does look fairly good inside of there. We're not going to reuse that though, so it doesn't really matter. Maybe a little bit of scoring, but not bad. All right. And there's that key. I'm gonna make sure we don't lose that. This is fairly worn. Yeah. A lot of grit down in there. So we'll clean that off well. And I still haven't seen the mail truck come yet. So I will come back when we have those parts. I'll clean this up a little bit more. And then I'm going to wait to remove all of this until we actually have the kit. So I can remove these. No way this is going back together with these. And the way this goes together is fiber gasket outer, metal that's sandwiched in between, and then a fiber on the lower. And then here's that lower portion of the pump that has some gaskets and some seals down on the lower portion too. There's a lot of grit down in there. So we'll want to get that out and get those replaced no matter what. Okay, so this came This is that kit, the water pump kit. You can see the part number there. And I'll probably also put it down in the description so you can take a look there if you want to find this part number. This is the actual QuickSilver. There are some aftermarket kits. I wouldn't waste my money on them. I would just go with the QuickSilver brand on this. It's something that you just really don't want to have fail. I think this cost me $63. And I could have saved, you know, 30 bucks or something by not going with the QuickSilver, but to be stuck out on the water with this failing just isn't worth it. And there have been a lot of discussion about how the aftermarkets just aren't as good of quality, especially on that impeller. And then what I also found was this base housing that goes down in here. When I took it apart and looked at it, I don't know if you can see that, if you can focus on that very well. This in here is damaged pretty significantly. It looks like it got hot and it's melted, which means at some point somebody probably ran this out of the water and got it hot. And I imagine since then that impeller's been replaced, but they didn't replace this base. So it took me a couple of days to get a new base unit in here, this part. And yeah, so I've got that, the new one on that, all ready to go and install along with the gaskets. I've gone ahead and replaced this seal here, which is where the oil goes from the lower to the upper, and cleaned it all up, cleaned this all up in here, and it's all ready to now start going back together. Okay. So here's that new base piece, and it goes like that. So first we'll put the gasket in there for that. Yeah, let's get the other glove on here. Okay, there we go. And that new base, I did go ahead and put a little grease in there and put that on. All right. Okay, and we're now ready. And just got to get these in the right order. This one goes first. If you can see that, which one that is on that gasket there. That's going to go on first. Okay. And it can only go one way. You have these two guides here that has to go over. And have the metal next. And finally this one. Okay. Oh, and in case you wanted to see the part number on this base unit, that base piece for the pump, there it is, and I'll put that down in the description also. And of course on that one I went with the QuickSilver also. That cost me, I think, $38. All right, we're ready for this housing to go back on, so we got to get this impeller in there. And if you remember, it sat on there like that. So it's going to need to go in here like that. So it's going to be going in there this direction. Okay, actually, it's going to, as it comes into here, it's going to be going counterclockwise. So actually, it sat on there that way, which means it's going to turn that direction when this is spinning. So that's going to go in there like that, which means as we put this in, the new one, we're going to be turning it counterclockwise as we get it to drop in there. So I'm going to lube this up a little bit to make it spin easier. That's also going to give it a lubrication on that first startup to help it out. Okay. Okay, and again, as this goes in there, we're going to be taking it counterclockwise to get it to go in. And these are always a bit of a chore to get in there. Okay, there we go. All right, now we want to get our key in place, and I'm going to put a little bit of lube over there just to help hold it. All right. Now this has a little channel. You can see over there where my finger is, there's a little channel that goes over that key. So we want to try and line that up as much as possible with where the key actually physically sits. And right now it's about exactly on this side. So we'll turn this to get it lined up over there, about where that sits. And it's going to be approximately that. And it's not. Actually, I'm 180 degrees off, so let's come around. Approximately there. All right. There we go. Okay. That did it. All right. Okay, let me just get it all back together now. Okay. All right, got a washer here. Washer here. And a washer here. And we got the nut that goes on there. Nut that goes on there. And the nut that goes on here. And the kit came with the new screw that connects this to the bottom lower housing. These actually are studs that come up out of this cast aluminum, and then this just attaches it to there. All right, and our sockets here that we're using. All right, first of all, we've got and we're just going to very lightly snug all of these down. Very, very lightly, and then we'll even them all up. Okay. All right, we'll start with these two. Get them snugged up. And you want to be careful not to go too hard on these. We just want it to hold it down snugly and evenly. And I'm sure there's a torque spec on these. I have no idea what it is. I've never worried about it. You get a feel for how tight things need to be over time. And now hit them all one more time. Okay, should be good there. Yeah. Just make sure they all feel about even. All right, there we go. Okay, now again, we've got this tube here. It's going to replace the tube that was in there. And that was the old one. And then this copper, I'll clean up a little bit more, but that sits down in there and then up into the upper. That takes that water from the lower to the upper. Clean it up good, get all the grit off from it. And then that just sits down in there. And I'm going to go put this into the upper when we get out there. And I need to remember the seal that goes on here. There's the one that goes here, or the O-ring that goes here, and then the seal that goes down here. And give that a little bit of lube. And this lube has seen better days. And when that goes up in, that's going to snug up around that. All right, and lube on that. Okay, I believe that's it. We are all ready to go back together. So I will meet you outside. I'm going to install this back up in there. All right, now what I do need to do still is clean this up under there, especially where that oil port goes up in. There, that's that old oil seal, that seal that goes on there, and that is damaged and stuck up in there. Let's see, I'm actually going to increase the angle on this a little bit. There we go, okay. All right, we got to remember to get those nuts on before it's all the way up, because they're not going to go if we get that up in tight. And I did get new nuts, so let me go grab those. And lose the gloves here. At least one of them. Okay. One. Just look, make sure our seal is still good there for the oil. That's still good. Okay. All right, before we go any farther, let's make sure that we're shifting okay. We're in gear still. Make sure we've got everything right. That should be neutral. Great. All right, let's go back to reverse. And reverse. Good. All right, we're good to go. So what's left now, drop it down. Put that lower end lube in it, and then we're going to winterize it. Okay, all right, we got this all back together. It's time to get the lube back in it. So, very straightforward. We're going to remove the drain plug down here. And up here, we're going to remove the vent plug, which is also the fill level. So we fill it till we see it coming out of here, and that's when we're full. We also have in that kit some new seals for this, for these. So let me go find those. Yeah, the seals that are in there are pretty shot. Let me be back. I should have had that already. All right, there we go. We got those. Let's dig this old one out of there. Okay, so we have this little pump. This screws into that port. And what I've done with this lube is I've actually heated it up. It's a cool day anyway, but it's a lot easier to pump if it's warm. So I just put it in water on the stove and heated it. And we're just going to go till we see it coming out of the top up here. And it should be a little more than a quart. If you don't heat this oil up, you'll wish that you had, because this 90 weight is really thick. And then if it's cold, like it is now, it can be a long, long process trying to pump it. Okay, that's our quart, so it should be a little bit more now that we're going to add. So let's watch up there. We should start seeing it before long coming out. There we go. Okay. All right, let's put that one in. And get this one all ready. And we'll want to do this one fast, which is the downside of having the oil warmed up. So this is going to flow out of there a little more quickly than it normally would. Okay. All right. Okay. And there we go. We're now ready for winterizing. Once the thermostat opens, then we're going to swap hoses there, and we're going to let it pump through 5 gallons of RV antifreeze. And this happens to be a minus 100 degree antifreeze that I'm putting in here. Then you don't have to take hoses off. You don't have to drain the block. It's a very easy procedure, and it goes quickly and it works well. And it just, moves all of that water out and replaces it with the antifreeze. If there's a little bit of water left in, that's okay. It can dilute it a little bit and we're all right with that minus 100 degree. I've used the minus 50 below also, and it works fine. And it's just a lot easier way to do it. Then there's no de-winterizing. You drop it in the water, you're ready to go.